Hey y'all, welcome to Peyton Energetics. I'm Peyton, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about the star races. Now, as we've been chatting in several of the past videos, we've been talking a little bit about all the different members of our galactic family. And as we are starting to move deeper into the window for open contact, the guides thought it was a good idea to start sharing some information about how to identify the different star races. So, of course, it is very easy if we know we are connecting with a Pleiadian being or an Arcturian being. But as more and more lightworkers and starseeds start to open their multidimensional abilities and connect with their star family, sometimes you're not exactly sure who you're connecting with. Is it an Arcturian guide or is it a Sirian star family member? So the guides in today's video are going to talk a little bit about what the different star races feel like energetically. So if you are connecting with a member of your star family or your guides, you might be able to start recognizing them by their energy. And each star race has its own unique energy feel. So certain star races have very identifiable energies. So the guides today are going to share just a little snapshot of what the different star races feel like. So if you have a chance to connect with these beings, you will recognize their energy. So let's start out by talking about the most common race that people are connecting with these days, and that is the Pleiadians. Now, if you have guides who are Pleiadian, or if you are connecting with Pleiadian star family, or even listening to people who share channeled messages from the Pleiadians, you may notice that the Pleiadians have a very unique and distinct energy. And in this conversation, we are talking very generally. Of course, there are going to be variations amongst all of the star races, and every human perceives energy differently. So we're going to talk in general trends only. But there are certain general themes that people notice when they're connecting with different star races. So when people connect with Pleiadian energy, whether that's Pleiadian guides, Pleiadian star family, the energy of Pleiadians is often described as being very energizing, very buzzy, very upbeat, very uplifting. Some people even call it zappy or electrical. So this is something that is kind of unique amongst the star races, is this very energizing feeling of Pleiadian energy. And something else that you may notice, especially if you are someone who can see colors or see energies, is the Pleiadian energy will often appear to people as being green in color. That's how I pick it up, as green in color. But it's also very common for people to pick up Pleiadian energy as being purple. That's super common as well, or even turquoise. So these are some signs that you can look to see if you're connecting with Pleiadian energy. Now, something else that's kind of unique about Pleiadian energy is it can be quite strong. So people notice this even in Pleiadian starseeds, that their energy is very intense. And so some people have described Pleiadian energy as being very intense. And for some people, especially people who are very grounded or who have a lot of density in their field, Pleiadian energy can be a little dizzying. So it's not unusual for people to experience Pleiadian energy as making them a little dizzy. And especially this tends to happen in my experience with people who are very grounded. Pleiadian energy can be a little too much for them, a little too much voltage. So that's something kind of unique that you can look to kind of figure out what energies you may be connecting with. Now, let's move on now and talk about Sirian energy and how Sirian energy is different than Pleiadian energy. Well, most people who experience Sirian energy or connect with Sirian guides notice that it is very strong, very stable, very solid, very dependable and reliable. So Sirians are known for being very just stable and solid. So this is an energy that I notice when I connect with Sirian beings. And something else that you may notice about Sirian energy is that it can give the impression of being very watery. Because as we know, the Sirian system is very watery. There are lots of watery planets, so many aquatic species. So when we connect with Sirian energy, often there is a feeling of wateriness. And you may be connecting with Sirian aquatic beings. So all Sirian beings are not humanoid in nature, and their aquatic beings love to connect with humans. So that is why so many humans love to connect with dolphins and whales. It is because they carry that beautiful Sirian energy. Now, Sirian energy, when we're talking about colors, often comes through to people as blue. Now remember, it's all perception, so you may read Sirian energy totally differently, but blue is very common when people connect with Sirian energy. That and the water. The water comes up a lot when people talk about connecting with Sirian energy. And another color that can come up with Sirians, although this does not come up with me so much, but I have had other people talk about connecting with Sirian energy, that is orange. So blue and orange are two of the energy colors that may be associated with Sirian energy. Now let's move on and take a look at the Arcturians, because they, of course, are working so closely with us here on Earth right now. And the Arcturian energy, when I connect with it, tends to be blue or purple. Now, you're going to see a theme with blue in our galactic family. Many of our star races associate with blue energy, and the Arcturians are certainly one of these as well. So for me, when I connect or see Arcturian energy, it tends to be blue, lavender, or purple. So just to give you something to aim at when you are trying to figure out what guides you are connecting with, the color of the energy can be helpful. It can be a guide to that. Now, what does Arcturian energy feel like? Arcturian energy is one of the most comfortable energies for humans to connect with because it feels good to everyone. So when I connect with Arcturians or work with Arcturian beings, the way I would describe their energy is being very soothing, very calming and relaxing. I like to think of Arcturian energy as that feeling you get after a day at the spa. So this makes sense because we have talked about how the Arcturians are famous in the galaxy for their healing. So their energy is no different. It just feels good to everyone. So this may be a sign if you are noticing this very soothing, very gentle energy that you're connecting with an Arcturian guide. Now, one of the star races that is less common that we are connecting with more and more as starseeds and lightworkers is that of the Andromedans. Now, the Andromedans are one of the races that has a more hands-off role with humans. So not as many of us are connecting with Andromedan energy. But when we connect with Andromedans, the way their energy is often described is as being very angelic. So Andromedans are often confused with angels because their energy is often described as angelic. And something else that is often described about the Andromedans themselves, in case you are someone who sees beings, sees spirit, they are often described as glowing. So if you see a being that is glowing, of course, you could be connecting with a light being, always possible. So there are many shades of gray in this conversation, but Andromedan beings are often described as glowing. Even the Pleiadians say that they tend to glow. So this is something that may just be a hint that you may be connecting with Andromedan energy. Now, something that I notice when I work with Andromedan starseeds, who are really rare, so it's always fun when I get an opportunity to work with one, is that I tend to notice that they have auras that sparkle. So you can see this theme of glowing transferring through to their starseeds. So whenever I see someone and look at their energy field and it sparkles like a diamond, that is always a clue to me that I am probably dealing with someone with a lot of Andromedan energy. Now, something else that may come up with Andromedan energy is that it can feel very otherworldly. So even starseeds who have a lot of Andromedan energy can feel like this. that they just have this otherworldly vibe. So if you are dealing or working with a being or a guide who feels just very ethereal and otherworldly, that to me is always kind of a hint that there's some Andromedan energy coming into play. Now let's talk a little bit about the Orions. Now, this is a group that has a lot of energy on the planet right now. So we are working a lot with Orions. And so they have a very unique energy as well. And the Orion energy in my book can't really be confused with much else. It is very distinct. So when I interact with Orion energy, the way this feels to me is it feels very no nonsense. It feels very practical. It feels very to the point. It feels like energy that is not messing around. So this is the sense that I always get when I work with Orion energy. So as we have talked about in the videos with the Orions, these are no nonsense folks. They are very practical, very on point. They do not like to have their time wasted. And so for me, Orion energy always feels very much like that, very businesslike, very on point. Let's not get distracted, stay focused. That to me is kind of the epitome of Orion energy. Now, Orion energy can also feel very strong. It can feel very forceful. And sometimes we can, as humans, interpret this as feeling controlling or domineering. But to me, it's more a sense of strength and confidence and conviction. The Orions always know exactly what they are about, what their goal is, and what they are trying to accomplish. So for me, this is an energy that is not that lovey-dovey, let's sit by the fire. It is a stay on point. What is our task? Let's get it done. So to me, that is how I identify Orion energy. And you can see this in their starseeds as well. Very on point, very driven. And so the Orion energy tends to not disappoint. Now let's move on and talk about the Lyrans, who, of course, as we know from our galactic history, are our oldest galactic family member. We are told that all human consciousness in the galaxy started from the Lyran star system. So the Lyrans are not really with us in physical form anymore, according to the Pleiadians, but they are still working with us from the higher dimensions, from the higher realms. So when people connect with Lyran energy, it is often described, and this is something that the Pleiadians coined, and I kind of love it. They say Lyran energy has a freedom fighter vibe. So the Lyrans, of course, were known as warriors, as explorers, as being very action-oriented. So the energy of the Lyrans tends to be fairly similar. So this tends to be a stronger energy, tends to be very action-oriented, and tends to be very, very strong. So I always think of Lyran energy as being the energy of the Vikings. That's how I think of the Lyrans. So it is that very strong, little aggressive, little, domineering at times, maybe a little controlling. That is what the Lyrans were known for, but just very driven, very what we would consider to be divine masculine, or that masculine energy of action, of mind, is what the Lyrans were known for. So if you are working with Lyran guides, you may notice some similar energies. Now, the sister civilization to the Lyrans was a civilization we know as the Vegans, and they were the second of the two original strains of human form in the galaxy, and they came from the Vega star system in the Lyran constellation. And although not very common, there are people who are still working with Vegan beings who identify as Vegan starseeds. So let's talk a little bit about Vegan energy. So Vegan energy was, although it comes from the same Lyran constellation as the Lyrans we were just talking about, the Vegans were very different beings. So the Vegans were known for being the spiritual side of the equation. So they were represented by divine feminine energy. So the energy of the Vegans tends to be very spiritual. It is often associated, like several other races, with the color blue because the original Vegans were known for their blue skin tone. And so the Vegans were known to be very relaxed, very calm, very nurturing. They were great at relationships. And so the vegan energy tends to be very relationship based. So these are beings and energies that are all about building relationships, with nurturing each other, with helping each other out, being very involved. So these are energies you may notice if you are connecting with vegan energies, or if you're a vegan starseed. And the vegans have an energy that is often described as being quite relaxed. As compared to the original Lyrans, who tend to be quite intense, the vegans tend to be quite chill, really laid back, kind of mellow, very spiritual, very feminine energy of allowing, of welcoming. So that is energy you may notice if you are connecting with vegan guides or vegan beings, or even vegan starseeds. And next, let's take a look at the Cassiopeans. Now, the Cassiopeans are a star race that doesn't have a huge amount of contact with Earth right now, but that will likely change as we move along into our open contact window. But the guides do say that the Cassiopeans have a very close relationship with Earth, just not one that is quite as out and about as maybe the Sirians or the Pleiadians. And the Cassiopeans have such a unique energy. I love to just throw out what it looks and feels like to many people, in case you are one of the special people who gets to work with Cassiopean beings. So when the guides talk about Cassiopean energy, they describe it as being, above all else, very feline. So this energy, because of course the Cassiopeans are descendants of the original Lyran feline beings. So the guides say if you're connecting with Cassiopean beings, you will notice a very feline energy, a very divine feminine energy. So the Cassiopeans are often described as being beautiful, high-dimensional, crystalline, feline beings. And that sounds so amazing. I would love to meet one. And this is a race that just doesn't interact with us much right now. But the guides are telling us about them, which always just gives me the idea that more is coming. Now, according to the Pleiadians, if you are connecting with Cassiopean energy, you may notice that it is extremely intense. So the guides say that this is very powerful energy and that it may show itself as being white or gold in color. And as you notice, as we have gotten to the end of the list of our star races, not a lot of star races show themselves with white and gold energy. So this may be one of those unique calling cards of the Cassiopeans. So if you happen to be connecting with guides who have a very strong, intense energy that is white or gold and has that feline feel to it, you may be lucky enough to be working with one of the rare Cassiopean beings. And finally, let's hit one more star race before we wrap this up and talk about the feline beings. Now, the feline beings don't have a ton of interaction with us here on Earth right now, but they're one of the most fascinating members of the galactic family. And the guides say that if we were to interact with a feline being, we may notice them as being very loving, very advanced, but that they are at heart warriors. So you will feel the strength of the felines under their loving energy. And the guides have said that the felines were, throughout their development, quite fearsome. So these are energies that are very loving, but with a backbone of steel. So if you get the chance to interact with the felines, I am so jealous. I am a little fascinated by big cats, and I can't wait to know more about the feline beings. And so if you are lucky enough to connect with them, let me know in the comments what that energy feels like, because the guides describe them as being absolutely amazing to interact with. So loving, so powerful, so gentle and generous with their time, but warriors at heart. So this is a race that nobody messes with. So I hope this has helped you understand the star races a little better and just get a little more familiar with some of the different energy flavors. Because as we start to work more with our star family, we start to be able to identify them based on their energy. And that just helps us get to know our galactic family members on a whole nother level. So I hope this has helped you. Let me know in the comment box below, what other star races do you want to know about? Drop that in the comment box below. And while you're down there, don't forget, hit the subscribe button and the like button if you haven't done that yet. I'll see you soon. Bye.